John, take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors Commercial and Investment Division update from the County of Westchester on biosciences and economic development. My name is John Barrett. I am president of the Commercial and Investment Division at the Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. I also serve as managing director of the Investment Sales Division at RM Friedland. Thank you all for attending today. Our panelists today come from the County of Westchester. We've got two. First, we have Bridget Gibbons. Bridget serves as Westchester County Executive George Latimer's Director of Economic Development. In this role, she is focused on attracting and retaining business and talent in Westchester. Since the pandemic started, she has focused on providing critical funding, information, and crisis advisory programs to help our businesses recover and become more resilient. We also have from the county, Deborah Novick. Deborah is the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation for the county. Prior to this role, she was Director of Bioink at New York Medical College, the incubator for bioscience startups based on the campus of New York Medical College in Valhalla. So good morning to you both. Welcome to what is hopefully our last Zoom meeting. I hope that by next month we will be meeting in person. So hopefully you will be known as the last Zoom meeting that the Hudson Gateway CID organization ever hosted. So Bridget, I hand it over to you.
Great, thank you so much, John, and thank you for having us this morning. It's a tremendous platform for us to be able to share all the work that we've been doing on the biosciences and to date, and then also to let you know about some of the great projects and activities and goals that we have for the future. Biosciences has been an important sector for Westchester County for a long time, and it has had a lot of focus from an economic development standpoint. In 2020, we actually, in the midst of the pandemic, we wrapped up an economic development strategy and focused on 4 key sectors. So the recommendation from the economic development consultant was that we focus on 4 key sectors: biosciences, advanced manufacturing, clean energy, and technology. And why those sectors? Because they were resilient. They really showed that they could withstand the pandemic and continue to grow. They offer well-paying jobs and align very well with our educated workforce. So in 2021, we really codified and focused our human resources and financial resources on those 4 key sectors, with the biosciences being the top focus. We really we took the year 2021 to really do our research and understand what the issues are, what's preventing us from really exploding as a biosciences hub. And we identified several issues. One is real estate. Building lab space for our biosciences startups is expensive, and we know that. So we have engaged with a consultant to help us understand how we can jumpstart real estate and development of the lab space. We know that in New York City, they were about 10 years ago, they were in the same scenario. They had not enough lab space, not enough people building lab space, and so the city had to kind of intervene and really give it a shot in the arms in order to make the business model work for the developer. So we are looking closely at how we can accomplish the same objective, where really to jumpstart the construction of lab space and space for all of our startups through developed and growing companies. So that's a key priority. We're also focused on incentives. So what do we how can we incentivize biosciences companies to come here and stay here? We have competition from the city, from New Jersey, from Connecticut. So we know in order to be competitive, we have to have some skin in the game in order to incentivize companies. And we discuss with biosciences companies that are here that they are being lured by other states and the cities. So we have to really up our game there. We know we do. And also we're focused on workforce development. That's another challenge. We know we'll be talking a little bit later about Regeneron, but they plan to add about 1,000 employees over the next 6 years as they go through their 2 phases of expansion on their Tarrytown campus. So, that's 1,000 new people, that's 1,000 new families, that's 1,000 new residents, homes, apartments. So that's a tremendous area of growth And we know we need to support all of our biosciences companies, not just Regeneron, with appropriate workforce. So we're going to be doing a gap study to identify what training is needed and what are we providing, not providing in Westchester to really get that part of the equation working well. So we have a lot of work to do, but we spent 2021 really planning and looking at the issues, and now we're in implementation mode. So you're going to see lots of activity coming out of our office to really address these issues. And we think the sky's the limit in terms of Westchester County being a biosciences hub. We're strategically positioned, and we have the workforce, we've got all the makings, we just need to pull it together and really execute on this. So we're excited about that. So I'm gonna share my screen so we can, let's see, here we go. Sorry. Can you see the slides?
We can. So bottom right would be where it is. You can make it presentation mode.
Bottom.
Yep. Over.
Here we go.
One more. There it is.
Yep, got it. Okay, there we go. Excellent. Thank you. So, as I said, the life sciences are critically important to us from an economic development standpoint, from the county executive's perspective. We really know that is a growth area for us, and we're excited about kind of pulling the levers to really jumpstart it and get it going. As I mentioned, we're strategically located. Look at us, we're right in the heart of all of this activity, 28 minutes from New York City, and also New Jersey. There's tons of activity, and Connecticut, there's lots of activity in the biosciences. And, we really have been working closely as a region. So we, thankfully, to the New York City Regional Planning Group, they pulled us all together. So we've had several meetings with Connecticut and New Jersey and the city talking about how do we pull together as a region and really make ourselves competitive globally, nationally, versus other hubs such as Cambridge and elsewhere. So lots of activity, lots of meetings, lots of talk about marketing as a hub. So that's a new kind of line of activity for Westchester County to be so closely partnering with, with New York City, which has a vibrant biosciences hub, and we're kind of working together. We're obviously adjacent to these locations, and we're strategically located along the whole Northeast corridor. And the bottom line is that Westchester County has space. We have space that the city does not have. We have less density. We have some vacancies. We have the ability and space to build labs, to renovate existing space, so to be biosciences appropriate. So that's a true advantage that we have in this region. And the other, probably a lot of this is known, but I just want to reiterate that, we have an incredible ecosystem here in Westchester. Deborah will talk a little bit later about a mapping project that she did, and really looked at the entire breadth and depth of the biosciences sector here in Westchester, and really uncovered a wealth of information, but also identifying, over 200 companies in the life sciences sector here in Westchester. And we've mapped them out, and we kind of understand what different areas they focus on. We have all the makings. So we have a very diverse and talented workforce, 8,000 workers, 20% of the life sciences private employment in New York State is in Westchester. So we are already kind of humming along, and we know that we really kind of just need to pull it all together. We have New York Medical College, we have Burke Neurological that's focused on neuroscience and brain injury and other specializations. They're doing groundbreaking research right here in Westchester. We need to really enable that, them to continue to do this great work. And we have a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship. That's Deborah's area of expertise, and Deborah comes to us from the Bioink at New York Medical College. So she's our biosciences lead, and she's really focused on innovation, entrepreneurship. How do we enable that to a great degree in Westchester County? And we have life sciences patents, and again, we have the real estate. We just really need to figure out the business model that works, so we can really create that lab space that's so desperately needed. So healthcare, we all know that healthcare is a very strong sector. It's the largest sector in Westchester County, employing 17% of the workforce. And it's so strategically aligned with our biosciences. There's lots of research. There are, skilled scientists in both of those areas. So it really, the work in our healthcare sector really supports and is aligned strategically and from a work perspective, they really help each other. They feed each other. So it's a really great, we're very fortunate to have such an important, the 25 hospitals here, 3 of the tri-state regions, major hospital networks are here in Westchester County. So that's a tremendous advantage that other locations do not have. And the workforce, if we look at the workforce as a region, there's 84,000 life sciences workers based on statistics from 2020. We have the largest pool of life sciences workers, and we have access to the large pool that's in the city. Companies like Regeneron, they have employees that come up from the city, from Connecticut, from New Jersey, and also lots of their employees are here in Westchester. So we know that the workforce is here, the real estate opportunities are here, and we just need to kind of focus on bringing it all together, bringing it over the finish line, I'd say. And I mentioned Regeneron, they have announced and plan a tremendous expansion, $1.8 billion to upgrade their Tarrytown campus. They're going to be adding 900,000 square feet to include 8 new buildings, 3 parking garages, a central utility plant, over 1,000 employees over the next 5 years. And the Westchester County IDA is going to be hopefully approving phase 2 of this expansion. So they're going to, groundbreaking is imminent, and we're really excited about, Regeneron is a magnet now and will only become more so as it grows to this extent, and its impact on Westchester County economy, the biosciences sector, and also the Westchester County economy is going, is unparalleled in my time. So it's really a tremendous, we're very fortunate to have Regeneron here and their commitment to Westchester County, and they've been a great partner with Westchester County Office of Economic Development, and so we're really thankful to them for that. So we really think the future is so bright, and we have lots of great activities in the pipeline. And I'm going to turn it over to Deborah now, who's going to walk you through the map that she worked so diligently to pull together, and it's been a great visual, and it's been very impressive. New York City, when they saw our map, they said, "Oh, we need one for the whole region," because it's so impactful when you look at it. So that's going to be another project that we're going to be working on in 2022 and probably 2023, is mapping the whole region so that at someone's fingertips they can see how robust our region is. So over to you, Deborah.
Thank you so much, Bridget. Yes, so as Bridget mentioned, and as it was mentioned in my introduction, I started my exposure to the life sciences when I became the director of Bioink at New York Medical College back in, I don't know what year that was, I think 2018. And although I'd been supporting entrepreneurs my whole career, I really had not been focused on the life sciences. So I was kind of starting from scratch and understanding what are the segments of life sciences, what kinds of companies were already present in the incubator, what kinds of companies were already present in the region, because if I was going to help those startups make connections to other companies locally as they grew, I needed to know who was here. So I got started on this idea of understanding what are the assets here in Westchester, what are the assets in the region, what areas of science do we have real expertise in, and that's how this mapping project was born. Bridget, if you want to, maybe if you want to click on that, but if you're controlling the screen, it's going to be hard for me to do. So I think I should share.
Okay. I'll stop sharing.
Okay. I have the map right here.
And just click share screen. There you go.
Oh, that is not the map. That is the weather.
Which is also very important these days.
Which is important. We're trying to keep track of the weather because we have a big tour tomorrow of some people from New York City who want to drive around and see all our life sciences assets. And so we're worrying about the weather. Sorry about that. Oh boy, where do I have that map? I hope this is, no, that is not going to be it. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. I'm not ready. Here is the map. Okay, now I'm going to be ready.
While you're working on that, if at the end of the presentation, you'd be willing to share the slide deck with Kathleen. Kathleen can then distribute and everybody can look at that map, which I think they'll find very interesting.
Yes, we're happy to do it, and we can share a link to the map itself, which is live. So here it is, the map. You can see the pie shape of Westchester, and right now, as Bridget mentioned, we hope to expand regionally, but for now, it just shows the assets in Westchester, and you can see all the H's for hospitals and graduation caps in purple for academic institutions. But one of the things that we thought would be very important about a map like this was being able to sort and filter. So in this view, you can see everything that's on the map, but we are able to, for example, take out 2 of the layers. So these are all the academic institutions, hospitals, and nonprofits. Or we can look just at the life sciences companies. And the different colors indicate different types of life sciences companies, which I can show you in this view. So for example, there are companies that make medical devices, and those are just in green. And if we want to add in the companies that are developing drugs, then we can add in these dark purple squares. If we want to see the companies working on digital health, we could take out some of these others. So it's an interactive map. And the idea is that if you're a company looking to come up here or look for employees with the skills you need, or look for partners, you can easily see what assets do we have, what companies are here, what resources are here that you might be able to partner with. Will there be employees with the skills you need? One of the things about the life sciences is that companies like to be where others are. They want there to be what they call density of opportunity. And so having a map like this allows companies to see how much there is here in the various sectors that they might be interested in, and say to themselves, oh yes, I want to be located in that particular region of the county because that's where the suppliers of ingredients are. Or they might say, I want to be located over here where I can see the majority of the drug development companies are. Or they might just say to themselves, you know what, really anywhere I go in Westchester, I'm going to have neighbors who are working in the biosciences, and it's all good. So I'm just going to find the space that's most suitable, most affordable, best commutable distance, whatever it might be, to locate my company. So that's a quick view of the map, and I'll go back to our slide presentation. I'm happy again to share the map and anybody who wants to play around with it. And also, if you become aware of a company that's missing from the map, or a research institute or a foundation that's missing from the map, or even a service provider like a law firm that specializes in life sciences, or a consultant that's working in the field, we'd love to continue to enhance and improve the map. I'm sure we don't have every single company on it that we need. So again, if you can think of anyone that's missing, please do let us know. Can you see the slides as a full screen now?
No, if you go up to the top and click on display settings,
Yeah.
and then click on duplicate slides. Yep, slideshow.
Oh, that is not the right
There you
screen.
go. Yep,
Yes.
that is correct.
You can see
Okay.
it now.
Okay, perfect. So, you know, I just showed you the map, but I didn't show every single company that's on there. We've got some tags for different sectors. We're very proud of the diversity that we have in the segments already. There are, you can see here, 28%, that's the largest segment in drug development. Clearly biotech and drug development, Regeneron is in that segment, but so are many other companies. A few are listed here, Accorda, which is based in Ardsley. They are working on drug therapies for neurological conditions. Oligomerics, which is based in Harrison, also working on neurological disorders. They're focused on Alzheimer's. Accorda is focused more on Parkinson's and MS. Regeneron, everybody knows they work in so many segments, but of course they were really at the forefront of finding treatments for COVID, which was so important. But we're not limited to drug development. You can see that we've got digital health companies, we have instrumentation and equipment makers, we have medical device companies. Aerolase is a medical device that is in the aesthetics, area, laser skin treatments. So one of the things that we're hoping is that as new companies take a look at moving here or starting up here, they see that we're well positioned around many of the important segments and that there's a home for them as well. Bridget mentioned that we have groundbreaking research going on here. Of course, there's New York Medical College, which is one of the oldest medical colleges in the US. It was actually started in Lower Manhattan, but moved up to Valhalla many, many, many years ago. And New York Medical College has a close alliance with Westchester Medical Center. WMC Health is the teaching hospital, and a lot of the faculty at New York Medical College also have clinical appointments at Westchester Medical Center. And New York Medical College also has affiliations with 100 other hospitals around the country where the medical students go to do their clinical rotations. And what's important about that is that when a company is interested in doing a clinical trial, they are able to potentially work through those 100 affiliations to find the appropriate sites for the clinical research of what they're working on, their applied research and their inventions. Besides New York Medical College, there's Burke Neurological Institute based in White Plains, and they are at the forefront of research into things, neurological brain injury, aging-related neurodegeneration. They have 8 or 10 different labs there working on many different kinds of treatments and cures for neurological degenerative diseases and also neurological injuries, brain injuries, stroke. And they have a big robotics lab there. They're working on robotics that can replace or enhance movement when your brain function and your muscular function are degraded. So it's really, really an interesting place. And in fact, they recently got a grant from New York State. Bridget, I'm sorry if I'm talking over one of your points, to put together a permanent clinical trials network for testing neurological inventions. So for example, if something in their lab or something in any biotech company or medical device companies needs to go through a clinical trials for that new device, the process of setting up the sites is arduous. And so Burke proposed to New York State, and New York State agreed that it would be a good idea to have a few locations that were sort of a permanent network for clinical trials for neurological products. And we think that that's going to really speed up the ability for new inventions to be tested, and if they're successful, to be brought to market. So that's something very forward thinking of Burke and of New York State funding it. There's the Thomas Watson Research Center at IBM. I think everybody knows that IBM's been such an important part of the corporate landscape here in Westchester for a really long time. And Watson is one of their very powerful computing tools. And they have a strong focus on bioengineering, neurology, cardiology. Companies can approach them to do deep data research projects, and it's really a terrific tool. And also at SUNY Purchase, there is a strong focus on the behavioral sciences. Most of the colleges here in Westchester have at least one, if not more, programs where they're training students in all the specialties that really make up a strong workforce for the life sciences. And you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, Iona College, Concordia, Sarah Lawrence, WCC, a lot of these organizations have strong programs in biology, chemistry, nursing, genetics, all the specialties that are so relevant. Let's see. So just in terms of thinking about the innovations and inventiveness, one way of measuring that is how much the county receives in grants. The NIH, that's the National Institutes of Health, is one of the agencies of the federal government that gives out research grants. It's not the only one, but it's the largest one that people seem to think of when they think about health-related progress. So we're very proud of the total of NIH grants that Westchester located institutions have received in the last 10 years, over $150 million. You can see that it's largely goes to academic institutions and foundations, with a smaller amount going to private companies, but that side is growing. And you can also see in the right-hand wheel, the areas of specialty in which these grants are being made. And in these 4 or 5 bluish segments of the arc, you can see neurology, aging, Alzheimer's, spinal cord injury. These are all in the neurological adjacent spaces, and certainly Burke Neurological Research Institute is a strong recipient of a lot of that NIH money, but there are many other participants in those segments, including Accorda, which was mentioned before, Oligomerics, which was mentioned before, and many other companies who are working in these areas. So it's a real area of strength for the region, for Westchester County, followed by the next largest is cardiology. And there's a very, very strong interest and activity in cardiology at New York Medical College in particular, where the senior leadership are largely cardiologists, so no surprise there. And the other thing is, you know, what can be done to stimulate growth at the earliest stages? What can the county do, and what can the region do to be sure that inventiveness is being supported? So Bioink at New York Medical College was opened, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago. It was a long time in the making, probably 10 years before that. It's a beautiful facility. If you have not seen it, I recommend that you try to arrange a tour there. If I were still the director there, I'd lead you around myself. But it's really a beautiful space. There are wet labs and dry labs and private offices and shared offices and a beautiful co-working space. There are 3 conference rooms. There's a kitchen area, an outdoor patio, and a big space for events and collaboration. It's really a beautifully designed place. It has a lot of shared equipment, and the benefit of that is that when a company is young and doesn't have much money, it's very expensive for them to get access to all the equipment they might need, and some of that equipment they don't need on a full-time basis. So the value of an incubator is that a lot of the equipment is provided in what you call a core lab, in a shared space where the companies can take turns using that equipment without having to make an investment in owning or leasing those expensive tools. So inside Bioink, there are right now, I think, 10 startups. Some of them are listed here. Sapiens Therapeutics is on a really, really fast track. They've just been approved for some phase 2 studies on, I think, 2 indications of their drug developments. And they've been raising a lot of money, and their founder, Barry Capel, is very prominent. He's sort of on the speaker circuit, presenting at conferences. And he was one of the earliest employees, or maybe a co-founder of Contrafect, which is another biotech company focused on infectious disease that's based in Yonkers. Retia Medical is a medical device company that has developed a patient monitor for measuring blood flow. Its focus is on people in the ICU and operating rooms, but it turned out to be an extremely valuable tool during COVID, even though that wasn't the intention of it, because the monitor is large, and clinicians were able to look through the windows of patients who were intubated and who were infectious and keep track of their blood flow without having to go in. And since it was so highly contagious, and it was a real lifesaver for the healthcare staff not having to suit up in their hazmat looking suits every time they need to check on these patients. So that company has already commercialized, gotten their FDA approval and begun selling their monitor, and they're growing very nicely. Digitouch Health is actually founded by the same entrepreneur, Mark Zemmel, who founded Retia. And in this second company, he's working on a way to monitor your blood pressure through an app on your phone. So that's a very interesting digital health technology. In addition to the incubator, which is a physical space for early stage companies, I want to mention the Accelerator program that Bridget and the county executive launched a couple of years ago before I came to this job. And the Westchester County BioSciences Accelerator program is an entrepreneurial training program for the very, very earliest stage companies. Sometimes there's not even a company yet, but there's just an invention or the idea of an invention that a scientist has. So 3 years ago, we had our first cohort, a pilot cohort of 6 founders going through the program. Last year, we had a full cohort of 12, and our third cohort of 12 has just started in January. And so that's a total of 30 ventures that the county has been supporting and encouraging as they go through their process of working through an invention, getting it patented, and figuring out how to bring it to market. If you'd like to know more about any of those companies at any point, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to tell you about them. And just like the sector as a whole here in Westchester, they cover many different types of categories. Some are developing drugs, some are developing devices, some are developing community health tools. They're really working on such a wide range of areas. So as Bridget mentioned, and I know all of you are in the real estate business, so real estate is of interest, of course. Companies need space to move into, to grow into, and to occupy as they grow. They need a place for their lab work to happen. They need a place for their employees to do their work, obviously. So we do have some spaces all around the county. You can see in the middle of this picture where these 3 dots are, that's the heart of the cluster. That's where New York Medical College, Bioink, Westchester Medical Center, the North 80, and RMC Bio 1, they're all located right there. That's the heart of the cluster in Valhalla, Tarrytown, Hawthorne area. And then there's this other very large project in Ardsley where Accorda is located, and there's some very, very beautiful lab space there in this other part of the county in Ardsley. The North 80 is a project that we hope will break ground sometime later this year. When it's fully built out, there should be over 2.1 million square feet of biotech and research space. The developer of that project, John Ferrari, is already talking to potential tenants, which include medical groups, growing bioscience companies. We're hopeful that there might be a contract research organization in the mix, which would mean that there could be an additional vivarium built here in the county. There will also be office space and retail space and hotel and conference space. The idea is for that campus to be sort of a complete live, work, play kind of place where employees don't have to go far to get their lunch and to do their errands. And it'll be a real draw enhancing that region of the cluster. Bioink, I already spoke about. It has over 16,000 square feet of LEED certified space, all kinds of lab equipment and conference rooms. I mentioned that already. And the step out space is very important, and we need more of it. When companies graduate from Bioink, or if they want to move up here from New York City, when they leave some of the incubators and accelerator programs that are very active in New York City, they may find that the space is too expensive in New York. They may actually live here in Westchester and realize that they could do their business closer to home. We certainly saw during COVID that people liked the idea of not commuting and working closer to home. And being able to set up their offices in less dense locations, lower, not quite as tall buildings with as much elevator riding required. And so we think there's a need for a lot more step out space here in Westchester. And as Bridget mentioned, that's something we're working on, trying to be part of the solution there. But there is already some space available. RMC Bio One, which is a division of the Robert Martin companies, has 46,000 square feet of flexible space on Skyline Drive, right in the heart of the cluster. And they are focusing on startup companies who are transitioning out and still need some flexibility, not a permanent long-term lease for exactly this amount of space. That's one of the things about these young companies, is that their needs change fairly quickly. They don't want to sign a lease for 100,000 square feet right now if they only need 10,000 square feet right now, but they also need the ability to be able to grow fairly quickly. So as Bridget mentioned, we did a big strategic planning exercise at the beginning of COVID in 2020. And one of the recommendations that came out of it was, of course, to increase our focus on the biosciences. We formed a task force to advise us and help us stay abreast of trends and challenges and make sure that we aren't operating in a vacuum. So we have stakeholders from around the industry who get together with us every month to talk about what's happening and what should be happening. And we're working in a lot of these arenas, building a talent pipeline, creating and identifying effective incentives, connecting our startups with investment capital where we can, creating suitable step out space, as I mentioned, facilitating new wet lab development, and some of these other things I think we've already spoken about. Bridget, do you have some closing thoughts that you would like to share with the group? I think I'm at the end of my talking points.
Yeah, no, I wanted to reiterate that we are working closely with the business community. So as part of the task force, there are business owners, startups through growing companies that are guiding us. And so we're not doing this in a vacuum. We're really doing it cooperatively with the businesses in the sector. And, we have identified the issues and challenges, and we have put together a plan to address those. And we're going to have lots of great activity in 2022. 2022 is really implementation based on all the study and research that we did in 2021. So we're really excited to, start to see some things come to fruition with all the work that we've been doing with all the stakeholders. So. And thanks so much. Of course, Deborah and I are willing to talk to anybody. So if there are, people would like to dig in a little bit deeper on any of the things that we've mentioned today, we're happy to have follow-up meetings. And, really just, we're open to input and ideas from everyone, especially this group, which is so critically involved in, what we're talking about. So.
Thank you both so much. There are a few questions posted, and I've been getting texted some questions as well. First question is on a very basic level. What's the difference between wet lab space and dry lab space?
So that's a great question. So if you can imagine in your house, you have a wet bar where you have a sink and you can mix drinks and rinse glasses and do wet related things, but you might have a dry bar. You might just have like a cart with liquor on it and an ice bucket. It's actually that, right? Some scientific experiments have a need for wet labs. They have to have access to water and other kinds of gases actually that come in along the bench where the scientists do their work. And some, particularly medical device companies, can do their work in what you call a dry lab, which you might call a workshop, right? It could be an electronics workshop. It's a lab bench or a workbench that doesn't have water on it. It doesn't have any access to plumbing. It's as simple as that.
But more than water, it's also gases and other things that.
Yes, it can be, yes. And the right kind of ventilation is usually required in those areas as well, which may not be required in a dry workshop.
Okay. Another question is, thanks so much for the interactive biosciences ecosystem map. Is the county planning on creating any kind of similar interactive maps for other business sectors?
Yes, in fact, we are. So for the 4 key sectors that we identified as our priority sectors, We have established an interactive map for advanced manufacturing. So that's in progress. We just need to, quality assure it, and then we will release that. And we're also building one in our clean energy sector. So we've identified geothermal, solar, companies, the ecosystem for those two, I'd say verticals within the clean energy space. We are building, in the process of building out interactive maps for that. Technology, which is our fourth sector, is a little bit more challenging. So we're figuring out exactly how we want to develop that sector. We are looking to potentially roll out a technology accelerator program, which would allow us to train and fine tune technology startups so that they would then become investable. So we're kind of, we're working diligently on it, but we're not quite ready to build a map yet, but that will be in the future for sure.
Great. Another question is, would you see any of these companies headquartering or taking space in the city of White Plains, or do they want to be further out in more of a suburban campus?
Go ahead, Deborah.
I think that every company is in a different situation. The companies that I've spoken to are much more interested in finding the right space for them than necessarily what town it's in specifically. In the earliest phases, you have companies where the founder is kind of working from home and working from his garage. And so, but I think when they get ready to actually take space and hire others, it's really more about what location is most convenient for them and what location can offer the space that they need. So I would think White Plains is certainly in the mix. I don't think any particular town is left out or favored necessarily.
Right. White Plains has such advantages of its central location, easy commute into the city. It's
Right.
Just, I think it's poised for
Restaurants for lunch.
Restaurants for lunch. So it has all the necessary.
Bridget and I are here, so it's really the most attractive place.
Great. You mentioned before on one of the last slides you showed about developing a pipeline of talent. So we hear all the time about Westchester County having such a great educated workforce. For these jobs, do all of these jobs require a college degree? Or when you're building the talent pipeline, are you going into STEM programs that some of the high schools maybe?
So we will be doing more research. So that's another implementation. So we're going to be doing a thorough study of, obviously focusing on Regeneron's needs, but all the needs across the sector. What are those skills that are needed that, we know that Regeneron right now has, several hundred open positions. So how do we help, what do we bring to the table? Is there something missing from Westchester County, or is it really just aligning existing programs and making sure that when someone is educated and has that certificate or their associates or their bachelor's or their master's, that they know that there's a job for them here in Westchester. And so doing that mapping is really critically important, and communicating. I find oftentimes people just don't even think that there's opportunity up here. They just automatically look into the city. And I think part of it is education, making people aware. But also we need to do that mapping to really understand if there are gaps, to fill the gaps. If we have existing matches, then making sure that we're maximizing those, so we're getting the graduates to those jobs that are here.
But I just want to add to your the first piece of the question, John. Not all the jobs do require a college degree. If you do an expansion, just as one example, the size of Regeneron, they're going to need all kinds of staff to clean the place. You need lab assistants, you need technicians. Those are not necessarily college degree jobs. You need people to staff the cafeteria. They have a beautiful cafeteria already, or maybe it's really more properly called a restaurant on that campus. I think there are going to be a lot of jobs that aren't necessarily science-based. And as the sector grows, there are always jobs that aren't, not everybody has to be a PhD doing the actual science discovery. But so I think there will be good jobs for every level of education. And that's one of the things that this implementation project in the talent pipeline area is going to help us figure out. What kinds of job needs will there be, and how can we be sure that people know about them and that they're properly trained no matter what level of skill is required.
Okay, great. Another question from the audience. What is considered advanced manufacturing? That was one of the slides as well.
It's a very good question. And it really, I had to kind of do some digging myself to when it was identified as a priority sector. I said, what does that mean really? So advanced manufacturing is an umbrella term, and it really focuses on the technology that they use to manufacture. So they are using more advanced techniques such as computers, artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing. So it's really the mechanism for manufacturing that separates them from traditional manufacturing. And it could be anything from, Eileen Fisher is considered an advanced manufacturer because she, that company produces clothing using advanced techniques, computers, robotics, etc. So it's really an umbrella. It could be anything from, packaging, specialized packaging for drugs and other things or all the way to food and clothing. But it's the method and technology that's used to do the manufacturing.
Another question from the audience. Does the state of New York have an association or some type of incubator that helps or funds to support technology startups?
So New York State has lots and lots of assets that are run out of a part of the state government called Empire State Development to support companies really of all sizes and shapes. And they have strong connection. There are places around the state with different specialties. So for example, a semiconductor company or someone who needs to partner with a semiconductor company can be supported by a center of excellence or a manufacturing extension partnership somewhere in the state that has expertise in semiconductors. There's this organization called Fuse Hub that the state runs, which helps companies find the right manufacturing partners, the right manufacturing materials, the right manufacturing techniques for a new product that they're developing. There's the New York Venture Fund, which is an actual investment fund that is funded by the state and run by a woman named Jennifer Teagan and her team. And they make investments in companies that are here in New York alongside other investors. So there are many, many different programs and resources available to help companies at every stage of growth. I'm not an expert in all of them, but if anybody on this call, has a company that needs some kind of support, I'm happy to try to direct you to the right resource. There are a lot available, and it's hard to know about all of them.
Sure. And to the person that asked that question, believe Marcia Gordon was just named one of the co-chairs. Marcia from the Business Council was named one of the co-chairs of the Regional Economic Development Council. So I would suggest that if you're looking for more information, you can speak with Marcia.
For sure.
Got another question from the audience. With attracting all of these, let's start with the premise. We know Westchester County is very expensive to live in, whether you're buying a home or even renting a home in many cases. Is part of your strategy of attracting biosciences to the region, is there a leg of that is working to support affordable housing, or is that you're just leaving that to other groups?
Well, obviously economic development, one of the underpinnings of it is that people can afford to live here. So you can't grow your economy if people can't live here. So it's a critical component to economic development. I'm happy to say that it is a top priority for County Executive Latimer and our senior team here. We did a study a couple of years ago that the results of the study were that we had a shortage of about 11,000 housing units affordable units in Westchester County, and we are in the process of chipping away at that. But that's no small feat. But we have acknowledged that affordable housing is a critical component of that county's health, and so we're working diligently. There's $25 million in the 2022 budget to address affordable housing. And this is the third year in a row that we put, extensive dollars into addressing that. It's, we're also looking at other options, ways to maybe incentivize, developers within Westchester County to build more affordable when they build new housing, mixed use residential housing, if they come through the Westchester County IDA, there is a requirement that there is some component of affordable housing, and it really is dictated by the municipality where the development is. But we really, we're in conversations about how can we increase that number. sometimes it's 10% of the units are affordable. What's the dynamic and what's the business model where we can increase that number? So we're always looking, we always have affordable housing on our minds, because as I said, it's a critical component to economic development.
Another question from the audience: since there is still not universal understanding and acceptance of clean energy, will the upcoming clean energy interactive county map include solar, geothermal, EV charging installations,
Yes.
as well as listing the businesses providing those services?
Yeah, it's similar to the way Deborah's map was constructed. It will be not just the service providers, not just the implementers, but the whole ecosystem. What businesses provide the components to the geothermal, and are they here in Westchester? Geothermal is, a growing business, growing sector. We know that there are challenges involved in geothermal. There aren't enough drillers, for example. So we're working closely with the geothermal companies here in Westchester. But yes, it will be an overarching, the whole ecosystem, the whole supply chain, and obviously we'll be able to identify gaps and see if there are ways to bring more companies to Westchester to fill that supply chain. But yes, solar, geothermal, and we're also focused on offshore wind, which is a very high priority for New York State. And in fact, I'm going to a conference in April that is focused on offshore wind partnerships. So looking to attract companies as New York State and Westchester's involvement in the offshore wind pipeline grows. They're looking for implementation in 2024 off of the tip of Montauk, way off, not onshore, but offshore. And we want to be involved in that. And, whether it's workers or some part of the manufacturing for the components that go into the offshore wind. So I'm attending the conference to try and talk to businesses that might want to expand into Westchester as our participation in the offshore wind sector ramps up over the coming couple of years. So we're looking at all aspects of clean energy and really hoping to, help the businesses in that sector grow, and not just implementers, but, really the whole ecosystem.
Great. It looks like we've answered all of the questions. Do either of you have any closing thoughts or comments?
Not just that I think 2022 is going to be an incredible year from an economic development perspective in the biosciences. I think we have lots of plans and that we're going to execute on. And that's one of the great things about working with Deborah is, we get stuff done. And so it's not just talk and theory. It's going to be, we're going to see some real changes in Westchester, and we're really excited about, the partnerships and really making a difference and really growing the sector. Deborah, anything?
Well, just thank you, John and Kathleen and Richard, for organizing this and giving us an opportunity to share what's going on here. And thank you all for participating, and invite you again, if you have thoughts or suggestions or questions, to please reach out to us. We're always available.
Okay. Thank you both for participating today. And I remind all our attendees today that our next program is on March 31st, and it will be a very timely concept here. If you've all received your Con Ed bills in the last 3 weeks, you know what we're talking about. So our next meeting will be how to control energy costs in a very volatile market. All
Great.
right?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that sounds like a really important topic.
Thank you. Thank you again for having us. This was really tremendous. Thank you so much.
It was terrific.
All right. Thank you both. Very, very good presentation.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.